Hello everybody, this is a refilm and re-upload of the episode 1 of the GEET fuel processor tech and how it works video series. And I use the asphalt stained shirt. Yes, that's what these spots are, asphalt or coal and petroleum tars. In this case, petroleum, more so petroleum asphalt than the other. But still, it's asphalt. These are asphalt stains, so it's helping help patch up a section of road. I grabbed the buckets that held some asphalt in it, and the petroleum dominant tar, part of the asphalt mixture, spotted the shirt beyond cleaning out. So real nasty shit. I had to get it out of my hands by using gasoline. I kept that gasoline. It had that tar swirling through it. And I used that to cut frying oil I got from my folks. And that was used, and I got a video clip of that somewhere in the computer to demonstrate something with it. And it does burn a wee bit smoky, and I would recommend filtering it with a 1 micron filter as you keep it preheated. But I would recommend doing biodiesel. That way the solvent properties of biodiesel and the gasoline keep it from sticking inside the injector lines, because the asphalt, the tar element from asphalt will fucking get sticky. So that's something that, these are some properties to consider if you were willing to go down that dangerous route. Me, I would rather just use it as a lighting fluid. And that's what I did. Then the cooking oil and the glycerin and the triglycerides act as oxygen donors, oxygenates to the burning. Anyways, now you got that little background story. Let's get into it. It's West Shrimp Po Boy here, obviously, and we're gonna restart this mini-series talking about the GEET fuel processor, how it works. I'm just reading off the script and keeping myself on track, and partially glancing at. Answers various questions, go into the controversial topics on it, how it can make people more self-sufficient to some degree, how it can, even at the shittiest, it can still be better than quote-unquote green policies by politicians and a lot of these so-called greenies, which I call watermelon because they're fucking red with socialism underneath. Because the predominantly leftists that peddle a lot of these scams. And if you go watch my video series, if it's so great, why the fuck ain't it in cars? If you watch that 2-episode little mini-series, right? And you see how I bring up the what's it called? The Invention Secrecy Act and how it can be implicative of more efficient solar panels for the public. 20% and above. Yeah, you realize why this whole solar thing comes off like a grift to me, because of the political shenanigans all throughout and around it. So, pardon me if I don't believe what people say about solar panels. I look at them like they're sheep in human skin. So, sorry, I look at them as sheeple. Now, wet turbines require gear oil. But what about synthetic? The hydrogen and carbon still comes from fossil fuel for the most part. The structures are different. And you could get away with doing a lot more shit, and it's more recyclable, and it's got all kind of other perks, right? But it's still ultimately a fossil fuel derived resource by the end of the day, for the most part. Until someone could give me a citation that disproves this, then I'll concede. But until then, oh yeah, good luck. And what steps we need to do this properly and shit like that. Now, many naysayers, right, have claimed in the past it's too good to be true, but in reality, it's a badly misunderstood fuel delivery system for diesel engines, gasoline engines, potentially even turbines and furnaces. Potentially anything that needs fuel could potentially use this and run cleaner overall and run longer, depending on certain adjustments and things like that. Potentially. So let's get into the questions of this episode, shall we? Question 1, a lot of you may ask, what the fuck's this GEET fuel processor? And it's a fuel reformer. It takes in various things you can vaporize and it will break into it, and it breaks it down. And what gasifier users call a syngas, which is a contraction or for the of the two words synthesis gas, which means a synthesized mix of various gases. In the case of a fuel reformers, the syngas would be called reformate because it's the output of a reformer. That's why it's called that. Remember, vaporize, not atomize. Atomize is breaking down into real tiny droplets. Vaporizing is turning a liquid fully into a gas. If you looked at my video where I responded to the Scotty Kilmer's various mileage claims, talk about mileage and mileage claims, and how I challenged what he said, I give you the secrets. It's about vaporization before and during spark ignition, and make sure everything's vaporized and then combusted before or at top 20 degrees after top dead center. These are the secrets. So it's about fully vaporizing at the right timing and burning everything within the right timing. Timing, proper vaporization, proper burning, and proper timing of all the above. That's the secret. I explained that. How does it work? Well, Tildeer is it takes fuel vapors, air, and aqueous or watery or polar liquid vapors, that you want to vaporize into a gaseous state fully, and breaks them down into reformate by using a combination of effects that have not been that well understood. But those of us who've researched into it have a decent enough understanding after researching and tinkering with it enough to figure out how it works in a general sense. And question number 3, you might ask, well, if this stuff works so great, or if it works at all, why ain't it in fucking cars, huh? Why ain't it in cars, huh? Well, just watch my fucking video series. If it's so great, why ain't it in cars now? For that answer, it's a fucking hellhole of a topic. I debunk a lot of conspiracy hypothesizing by looking at it from an economic and financial and business sense. Right? As an automaker, as an oil producer, and all this other shit. And then in the second episode, I start giving you some red pills and clues of what potentially could be going on. Are the governments of the world going to acknowledge it? Well, fuck no. They got no incentive to. They got every incentive against admitting to it. Because they're fucking notorious for lying to the masses, and chunks of the masses are so fucking full of themselves, they go along with it. While still simultaneously bitching about what they did in the past. But they're not critical and thinking enough to question them. Question number 4. What about just going to electric cars or hybrids? Won't that help? No. They have potential. They do have potential. But you'd need to be self-sufficient and green in making power to charge them said batteries, or carry the means with you, or both. So unless you're part of the minority of the rich class, regardless of whether you're rich and you earned this richness honestly or by being a political corporate whore, you won't be able to do that. The power plants we have use the worst forms of coal burning out there. They don't advocate clean nuclear power either. That shit gets glowed on so fucking hard. They fucking glower on that shit so bad it's unreal. They don't even use clean coal power, gasification of coal, and oxy-fuel burning of the syngas from coal. And they don't advocate mixing with coal that they want to gasify with calcite and dolomite to catalyze any breaking of tar that could form in the gasifier, and then which extends the longevity of gasifiers. That's a whole other story. You could probably look into some of that. You probably get a general idea if you get the book Have Wood Will Travel by Wayne Keith. And then also chemically grabs sulfur so it won't go in the atmosphere and pollute. By the time the coal, syngas, and oxygen and exhaust smoke mix get burned to heat water. or used in a gas turbine, and the leftover heat from the gas turbine can then be used to heat water to turn a steam turbine. And you got two routes, you got two ways of generating electricity that way. So they don't even do that. And then collecting CO2 and using plasma to reform it with methane to turn it into synthetic fuels. They don't do any of that shit. That would clean up our diesels like crazy if they just did that. But they're not going to do it. I gave people a secret how you could do that with Paul Babcock's with snaps of the video, which is, by the way, under fair use. If you want to learn more about it and listen to him talk, I strongly recommend get the first Magnetic Energy Secrets presentation. And if you want to see what little I gave, you can reproduce the experiment yourself to see. What are you doing, boy? Leave it alone. No. Quit chewing on that, mister. You're not chewing my damn paper stacks. Bad little shit. This could be so bad some nights. They don't even advocate that. Plus, the electric grid is the mainstream downgrade of the Thomas Edison original invention greatness that was expanded on by Nikola Tesla, Ferranti, Arthur Kennedy, Oliver Heaviside, J.J. Thomson, Charles Fortescue, and Charles Prody Steinmetz. It's a bunch of utility corporations that are already partially government run, so it's already 3/4 of the government right there alone. Do you understand the way the corporation entity systems have been working for the last 4,000 years? The implications. But also, in of itself, and it protects its shareholders, not only from liability, but also responsibilities. And that is a huge problem. Finally, the issue of not using green tech or clean nuclear power at the bare minimum like CANDU reactors. We've had a clean nuclear anti-proliferation technology type reactor that also burns waste. It's called the actinide burning cycle. I'll put that down here too. Since the 60s, it gets better as you grow it bigger and when you employ technologies from later nuclear reactor generation technologies into it to update it and upgrade it. You could do that. And it would be so much greener than all the solar panel bullshitting that requires fossil fuel to make the plastics and all of the shit in between. And it's more efficient. It's more efficient. The atomic waste that's left behind is so weak you can block it with a pubic hair, for God's sake. And it only lasts a few hundred years because it's been transmuted so damn hard. And you could bury it with no trouble, and if it got in the environment, it'd stick in place and it wouldn't cause no long-term damage under the ground. We've had this for decades, but the shit's been glow-opped on for so goddamn long by the FUDs here and in other Western countries, because we know who the elitist groups really answer to ultimately by the end of the day. That's why the UN says don't fucking say the dirty R word. They deem it the dirty R word now. I've been trolling the FUDs off and on my channel a couple of times already. So unless you actually do at least the bare minimum of the better, cleaner, greener tech and doing better to the electric grid like I listed, bare minimum, it's just going to make the problem worse. And the electric grid won't be, the downgrade we live with won't be able to take it. Scotty Kilmer's been calling this shit out. It's crazy. The fact we even entertain it right now. And another thing, lastly, the best battery tech I know of are the silver zinc batteries, and they don't have the right way of alloying the zinc electrodes without lowering the conductivity too damn harshly. They come close with platinum or palladium or something like that. Still needs work. Lastly, and then finally, we got the graphene battery tech. But we don't have the infrastructure for either fucking one. They actually compete with lithium ion, but we don't have the fucking infrastructure for that shit, and we're not going to for some foreseeable time and for the future. So get the fuck out of here with that shit. Go blow smoke with someone else's ass. You ain't gonna fucking BS me, alright? Good Lord. Question number 5. What happened to this technology? Well, it's got a variation of it sold as a kit in France. Anyone can buy it across the planet at all. It's called the eCopper kit. It's been installed on tractors in France up the ass. It's been installed on vehicles and such in France and Belgium and other parts of Europe that allow it. And a couple of places in Canada, from what I remember. They even had it on a helicopter. I forgot which one of those places. And those who work on gas turbines, that worked on the gas turbines for these helicopters, and people who installed it on were probably told to remove it for regulatory reasons, bullshitting, you know, most probably, because they did have to remove it eventually. But it's sad because it did run cleaner, and it delivered, I think, what, 40 or something % more runtime in it, and it ran cleaner. I think you'd want that across the board, but they told them to take it out. The tech, to a very limited degree, is already out there. But the inventor was fucked over by the system hard. And I covered this in my video series, which is going to be a playlist with this video series. That first video series is GEET is Not a Fraud, the Paul Pantone expose. Check it out. There were thousands of people working all over the world trying to get this thing going. I'm reading off of it at this point. It's just as legit as me talking to you guys. Just off the cuff. Because it's actually my thoughts I typed out and then printed on this shit. There were thousands of people all over the world trying to get this thing out there more, but due to the FUD, due to the USA Constitutional Republic being long dead since World War I, thanks to fucking Woodrow Wilson contributing to and FDR contributing to our modern shithole scenario in politicking and economics, don't get me started. We'll need to revive it and make it better after possibly a series of rebellions, and then which will trigger a couple of BOOGs. And I'm probably going to be called an MVE once again for even spelling that word. Most likely for this remnants of a country to fully change at the federal level. They won't be allowed, unless these things happen, they won't allow it to be sold here. They attempted to buy him out to carry out Invention secrecy and such, and they tried this. They tried to get him jailed for false security fraud charges that they had no substantiation to. I witnessed the court case, kept track of him as best as I could, and he was illegally arrested and incarcerated, etc., according to the Constitution. But then again, 99% of our current structure is illegal as fuck, according to it. Don't get me started on that. It did nothing to stop this bullshit from getting to where it's at. So, and they openly, both Republicans and Democrats, both hate on the Constitution and cherry pick from it when they see fit. When you're hard enough constitutionalist and consistent enough, fucking Ben Shapiro's going to call you an anti-Semite because he's a neocon. That's what they do. Controlled opposition. Kyle Kalinske and David fuck-ass Pacman are also going to call you anything under the book if they see fit because they're totalitarian twats claiming to be progressive, although progressivism is a joke of a so-called political movement. That being said, all this being said, other countries are more lenient to it, and so it can be sold in other countries, but it can only be taught here, which is nice. But yeah, there were thousands of people working all over the world trying to get this thing out to the rest of the planet more quickly in a way that's built just right, and the community had a good over 2,500 people. But by the time Yahoo closed its groups function down, the Yahoo group was called the Vortexing Heat Exchanger Group, and the community was of 3 demographics. Group 1, man, this thing really works. 2, this thing can work, but making it work consistently in all environments, situations, temp ranges, weather conditions, and as possible is the main thing we need to figure out. Then figure out this business and get that out to market. Then figure out this business around the claims of self-generated plasma and other shit like that. We need to, once we get this bare minimum out to market to be sold to people and converted or whatever, or teach them how to convert. Then we need to research into this business here, these claims, and nip them in the ass once and for all. And then group 3 was, this shit don't fucking work. Now I won't leave you with any guessing games. I will tell you the biggest demographic was group 2, and it could be divided into 3 subgroups. Group 2A were the tuners, builders, and tinkerers. Group 2B were those who did the theorizing, researching, and gathering for puzzle pieces, including various fields of chemistry, engineering, and physics, to find any potential leads for various causal mechanisms. Basically what theoreticians or academics are supposed to do. Just listen to an engineer on a bad day arguing with a group of theoreticians and listen to her or him cuss them for being religious about their, or occultist for generating their fucking about their so-called theorizings with nebulous mathematics, big oofies. I remember playing Counter-Strike Source and listening to students' horror stories of getting flunked out of physics for calling string theory a giant fucking mess. And they got flunked, and then they had to pursue another study path because they got fucked over for saying that. It brings back memories. And then Group 2C. Those who did all the above. I was a member of Group 2C. And I came into it very late in the game. But I think I have got enough figured out based on the works of everyone else who has contributed to it. And some of my own findings and my own deductions I also did as well to go with it. And to counter test. And this is relating to the GEET reactors research. And again, the over 2,500 people that were still on the Vertexing Heat Exchanger Yahoo group to do the rest of this series. To and explain in detail what Fringe Tech Grant didn't cover fully. I shared my references and resources that I had at the time with him over in my private emails on my YouTube account was still backed by a Gmail, and I have the references on a mega.nz download page which will be updated with stuff over time. Save the files if you want to and share them with others. Make a school science project out of it if you want to. So. That being said, please do that. And thank you for watching. This is West Shrimp Po' Boy signing out. See you in episode 2.